Jacob, this podcast has gone to the moon. We are the elite. Oh, yeah. We're the elite of the elite, and that's why we wear Elite Sports, the only sporting brand company that supports Texas State athletes the way that they deserve to be respected. If you want to support the Bobcats and this podcast, shop at Elite Sports. The best athletes at Texas State are sponsored by Elite Sports. The best podcast is also.
Use code SQUARE at checkout for 10% off. One of the best college apparel companies in the country, Home Field. If you got A&M fans, if you got Longhorn fans, if you got begrudgingly probably in your life that you want to give a nice gift for, shop Home Field. Use code SQUARE at checkout, 10% off.
Jacob, when I wear Home Field apparel, I feel like I have a home field advantage.
Do you? Do you actually have one?
100%. I have a golden gopher shirt. Looks great on me. Girls are all over me being like, hey, do chicks really dig the long ball? I go, yeah, they do. 1957 World Series champs, Golden Gophers. Yeah, this guy gets it. So, Jacob, we don't do reaction pods.
Hate that stupid. Almost did it. Clean pod.
Hashtag clean pod.
Hate that sort of content, bro. You already saw the game. You already know what happens. Even if you don't, it's okay. It already happened, bro.
Yeah, so we don't do reaction pods. We did talk UTSA with Mike Craven today because, look, you try to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to be honest here. He was not coming on if we didn't do this before the game.
Yeah, no.
If we didn't do this before
the game,
you roped
him into a contract.
Yep. He would have found a way to weasel out of it, which I'm not saying that, like a weasel negative connotation here.
Now, is it because I edit his other podcast and he was like, I should probably.
I don't think so. I think it helped that he thought UTSA. Look, he didn't say this. I think every UTSA alumni and fan thought they were going to beat Texas State on Saturday. I think maybe not every, but a lot thought they were going to beat Texas State on Saturday.
Oh, 100%. I was looking back at the stuff that we shot out at tailgate. We were out at the scout team tailgaters alongside not Maroon Golden, excuse me.
A group of five.
I guess
Maroon and Golden
was also, part of it. Yeah. That's what I meant to say. And then, a group of five guys was there too. So we caught up with them right at the end of their live stream. Said what's up to them. They told us they listen to Squarin. So shout out, a group of five guys follows us, listens to us, sees our stuff out there. Told us to keep fighting the good fight.
Okay, stop the glaze.
They did.
A lot of people out there. I think Texas State fans were saying Cats by 90. UTSA fans, different vibe. Very different vibe.
Little cocky coming into the stadium. Beautiful sunny San Marcos, UFCU stadium.
So, Weatherman Jake, you lost the title of Rain Man.
I didn't, bro. Here's the thing. People were giving me flack about my weather forecast all week. It didn't come from me. Guess who it came from? A certified meteorologist all week. I asked our entire team. I work at Ken's 5. I have access to some of the best.
Let me tell you.
Best meteorologists in the market.
This is not a good promo for your TV station here, buddy.
This is bad. The high in San Marcos was 92 degrees. You know that, right?
I'm just saying, this is not a good sign for your
team. They said low 90s. And I said low 90s.
Not a good look for your team.
Everybody's showing me their weather channel and their iPhone app. That's not how you get the real temperature.
Oh, what do you see? This is how you know when a dude messed up, because you're like, we gotta go by the airport temp. We gotta go to the airport.
92 degrees on Saturday.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just saying, if
you were in the box, you were in the AC eating my brownies, everybody.
Yeah.
How fat is Andrew Zimmel? He ate my snacks in the press box. Talking about me about 90-degree temperatures. I was sweating my balls off out there, man. It was hot.
Well, at least you didn't get sunburned.
No, I didn't get sunburned. No.
Shout out the wizard.
I have to make a formal apology to Miss Webb because I made fun of Zach last week or the week before last on week 1 for wearing long sleeve shirt and drinking hot coffee. Come on, when are we gonna?
Hot coffee's way OD.
Hot coffee is aggressive.
That's like insane.
Yeah, and so this week. Or last week, I should say, the Wizard wore short sleeve, Bad move.
Hey, bad move. Wizard turned into lobster real quick.
The entire time on the sidelines, I was trying to lend him some melanin. So I'm so sorry, Zach, and your lovely wife. That's all my fault. But don't listen to me. I'm
don't
brown.
get
I don't have to do the same
don't
rules
get in
as
the
you.
town and don't get in the tanning contest with a Mexican. It's the lessons to be learned.
Don't get side by side in a tanning bed with me. That's for sure.
Hey, brother, look, if you lived in South Texas before, you know what's up. You're in the dugout, you're putting your sunscreen on. The Dominican next to you is like, what is that? Hey, I'm trying to make sure I don't get cancer, buddy. That's what we're doing here.
Hot coffee is nuts, though. Oh.
That is insane.
And all black is insane, too. He didn't have to
Why
wear
not
all
wear
black.
all white? Why not wear all white? That's crazy to me.
Why not blend in with the field? Hey, all green.
No, don't do that because you get run over.
Yeah.
No, the all white look would look good.
All
That's a clean look.
Though, that is crazy.
Little white dry fit action, white shorts, black shoes. Keep on their toes.
Looks like a stage manager at a off-Broadway play out there on the field.
Here's a podcast, everybody.
Tired of winning the tailgate but losing the games? We can't help that. But we can tell you what the hell is up with each team and what's going on across sunny San Marcos. Texas State fans, get on your feet. You're listening to Squarin' Around with Jacob Rodriguez and Andrew Zimmel.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We're joined by Mike Craven from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. This is not to rub Craven's face.
Yes, it is.
Into the dirt on this thing. No, it isn't. Because he said win, lose, or tie, he would be here. So really,
no, he didn't. No, he didn't.
No,
no. You're not getting off with that. No.
Okay, you intro it.
I said Mike Craven, one of the best college football writers in the country, probably one of the most famous UTSA alums. I said, hey, when Texas State beats UTSA, come on the pod. And he said, when UTSA beats Texas State, have a spot for me. So here we are. No. That's what it is. Not win, lose, or draw. Don't give him that. If UTSA would have beat Texas State, he would have come on here and been like, can't beat UTSA.
I have to say,
not big time.
The ghost.
Yeah, but we lost. UTSA lost it. I'm here. So
he could have said, sorry, I'm feeling sick.
Yeah, I could have just cut y'all's whole podcast.
Mm-hmm. Could have unplugged the podcast machine.
That's right.
But I'll tell you, Craven, the ghost of you were there at UFCU Stadium because like 3 plays in, Jordan McLeod throws a tip pass pick, but still, I was like, oh God. And that's the only real time I was scared that entire game, aside from when a ball nearly hit me in the nuts on the sideline. That was scary.
Yeah, I got into the car after getting done working at the big house from the Texas-Michigan game, and it was already not a football game anymore. So I didn't really have to live through many of the moments. I've gone back and watched it. I took my medicine and watched the whole thing. That's kind of the gig, right? And Texas State dominated from the jump. It was not an even contest, and that was pretty evident early in that one.
So what were your 3 biggest takeaways?
Well, if we're on the UTSA side, is that offensive line isn't as advertised. You know, I think the Roadrunners knew that the passing game was going to take some time, that the defense and the run game was going to have to carry UTSA, and so far neither of those units has lived up to it. I mean, the defense hasn't been put in great spots to do that, right? But on Texas State's side, just, you know, going back to like 2021 and seeing that roster and being there when Incarnate Word beats the Bobcats and stuff. And then you just flash forward and see the skill, right? Like Texas State had the better quarterback. They had more talent at wide receiver. That offensive line doesn't get the credit it's supposed to. The defense has killers everywhere, right? Like Ben Bell's running around. Like they just are more talented. And that's happened in 2 cycles in a year and a half, basically, under GJ Kinne. That's impressive. And then also just the scheme that Texas State runs. I mean, anybody who listens to me knows what I feel about Mac Leftwich. He's one of the brighter minds in college football. It reminds me of when UTSA had Will Stein, where it's like, that dude's a star who's going to be calling football plays in college football playoff games one day. And right now he's in San Marcos, right? Just like Will Stein was hiding in San Antonio after being at a high school coach in Austin. And so I just think Texas State is taking over the talent gap, and they're just as good as a coaching staff. And, you know, in a game that is emotionally charged, you get out to a hot start like that, you take all the momentum, 20,000 people screaming, You look down, and it's 49-10. I don't think it was all that surprising. The score was surprising, but Texas State dominating that game and winning that game, probably not all that surprising when you look back on it.
The thing I think that surprised me the most, Craven, was that Texas State didn't take their foot off the gas. Because in games like that last year, Texas State might get a big lead at halftime or might have momentum in the third quarter. And then for whatever reason, they got lax behind the driver or behind the steering wheel. It felt like this game was the first game that we saw. Again, maybe Rice in the bowl game, but it felt like everybody was clicking the entire time, that there was no take the foot off the gas, let it coast type of feel.
I would imagine in a lot of days of practice in the spring or the summer when Kinne wasn't getting maybe the effort or the attention that he would like, he could just point to this UTSA game, right? I mean, this was, you got Lamar in week 1 and coaches are never going to look past an opponent, but we're all humans and you know what's coming down the pike in week 2. And I think this team was supremely motivated. I mean, you could just look at the energy on one sideline compared to the other, or when one team made a big play compared to when the other team made a big play. Texas State was up for this football game. They had heard all the noise, right? You're 0-5 against this team. I just think that they played they wanted it more, right? For lack of a better term. There was a team that showed up on Saturday ready to play that football game like it was a Super Bowl, and there was another team that didn't. And I think you could see that pretty clearly.
There was, I guess, like that specific notion too, Craven, that like, oh, Texas State created this whole team just to beat UTSA has kind of been taken out of context too, because GJ said it like that in that manner, like all of our decisions led up to this win, basically. But like, it's also just like, well, yeah, they wanted to get a team that could compete at this level, Well,
it's respect, right? Like, GJ Kinne and Jeff Traylor are really close, right? And if you're trying to build the best G5 program in the country, where else would you look than, 40 miles up the road where they're doing that, where they've won 2 conference championship games, where they've won more games in the last 4 years than any other team in this state. They're really good and they've had really good success and they've built it in a way that GJ Kinne's trying to do, the take back Texas, the doing the high school recruiting, the relationships, the getting into the community. It's not a coincidence that those two guys are very similar in those ways. And so I do think that in college football, you build teams to beat your rivals. Michigan builds a team to beat Ohio State. Texas builds a team to beat Oklahoma. USC builds a team to beat Notre Dame, right? Like that is what you do, because the enjoyment of this sport is based on the misery of the people next to you, right?
Yes,
like it is
this guy gets it.
It is an inverse relationship. And so you are trying to beat the team that causes you the most pain when they beat you. And that is UTSA for Texas State. That was the boogeyman. And they built a team that could go toe to toe with that. They built a culture that can go toe to toe with that. And the end result was 49-10 butt whooping in week 2.
How big of a deal is it that Texas State's 3-0 against teams in the state?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big deal to beat your peers because of recruiting. And that doesn't always have to be in the state. I mean, that's beating Louisiana. That any team that you see a player at 2 p.m. and then that other team sees a player at 2:40, and then like those are the teams that you got to beat. A lot of times those happen to be your rivals and proximity geographical teams, and UTSA just checks all of those boxes for Texas State.
One thing I think a lot of us noticed in the press box was how many recruits were at that game. That was something that kind of got underreported, maybe, that there were people who were from San Antonio and the surrounding areas who were at that game on the Texas State sideline watching that. And I'm curious, like with the conversation around Jeff Traylor, I mean, I don't imagine an 18-year-old really cares or listens to Sirius XM and hears that Jeff Traylor every other week is going to go be the next head coach at another school. But I imagine like that plus the game might swing some opinions, might change some minds, and might help Texas State.
I think it's the environment. I think you're right. I don't know how much 18-year-olds are tuned into that. I would imagine coaching staffs use that. I don't know if Texas State's could, like, I mean, the same thing could be said about them in the next year or two. Like GJ Kinne is going to be mentioned on a lot of lists, and that, that's deserved. And that's kind of life as G5, but you want to have those recruits there when there's 18,000 people in the stands and the parking lots are full of tailgaters. Like that's an environment you want to go play in. Like lose, win, or draw. You look around, And you go like, hell, man, that's a packed state. That doesn't happen every G5 week. Y'all have been around Texas State. It hasn't happened all the time there, right? It's when you get that, right? When you get that, you got to capture it and you got to show it off. And I think that's the reason those schools have the recruits on the big weekends.
So where does UTSA go from here? Okay, Jacob.
Sorry. I was just saying, I think last year we averaged like 23 or 24,000. This week was 28. I've never seen UFCU Stadium or Bobcat Stadium, for that matter, ever like that in my time covering the team. So it was nuts to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going to the ULM last year on the book tour. By the way, Texas State broke the Craven curse last year with that ULM win. I remember going there and like, my uncles went to Texas State. My mom went to Texas State. Like I grew up my first 4 or 5 years in Dripping Springs, Wimberley area, right? So I've gone to a lot of Bobcats games dating back for a long time. I had never seen it like that. I'd seen the tailgating like that, right? Like I've seen the parties, I've seen the fun, but I've never seen it translate to the game experience. And, I think there's a reason that Texas State's always been considered a sleeping giant. And it feels like they're waking up, and that's really cool. Like that's cool for college football.
I want to add,
Craven, you'll remember actually the conversation you and I were having as we made our way down to the field as Texas State still trailed late in the fourth quarter of that ULM game. We were talking about when Mac Leftwich does leave Texas State because we thought it was going to be last year for sure.
I think the tailgate was bad on Saturday. I wasn't impressed.
You were only there for like an hour of the beginning.
I thought, well, I don't know. I just thought that the crowd was a lot better than the tailgate was, which is the first time that might have ever happened.
This is just old man goes to tailgate is unimpressed.
That's a good change, though. You want it that way.
I'd rather that. Yeah.
You want it that way. I mean, both is the best, but you want it that way for sure.
I would rather have a
tailgate was amazing, and then the crowds were like deplorable, basically.
Yeah, the tailgate was the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are UTSA fans spoiled, acting like this is like the end of the world? Yes. I don't understand. I don't quite get it because it's not a program that's like 100 years old.
That's why, though. Okay. That's why. You got to remember the fan base isn't full of, and I say this with love as somebody who ran a rival
intelligent
side
people
who went to UTSA. They just haven't been college football fans forever, right? It's a city that's an NFL fan base. The college football fans that are there are Texas fans, and we all know Texas fans have unrealistic expectations as well. At the G5 level, hell, at the P4 level, unless you're like 5 schools, you can't just turn it over. Like there is going to be a cyclical nature of this thing. Like you're not going to lose the best quarterback in school history, the best wide receiver in school history, the best safety in school history, and then just like figure it out. Texas State's really good. Like they didn't just lose to, I don't know, East Carolina or something like that. Like they lost to one of the best G5 teams in the country, if not maybe the best G5 team in the country. I reserve judgment about where UTSA is as a program until we're like 4 weeks into the American, right? Because they're going to get their tail kicked.
4 weeks into the American?
Well, what is your expectations of this football team, right? It's probably
like a month.
It was probably 8-4, 9-3. Yeah, but I don't live in this world of like needing to have this huge opinion like before everybody, right? Like I'm going to just like watch it. And then when I see it, I'm going to be like, this is that, or this is that, right? Like if you came into this season thinking UTSA was going to be any more than 8-4, 9-3, you were probably kidding yourself. And if they can get into the American, they lose to Texas next week. Let's say they lose to Memphis. They go 9-3. Let's say they lose another one. They lose to South Florida. They go 8-4 in a rebuilding year at a G5 program. Like that's what you're trying to get to, right? Like that's the best season ever in Texas State history last year.
Let me just say, if they go 8-4 with the team they have currently, that needs to put an end to the best group of 5 conference because that UTSA team should not be 8-5 or 8-4.
Yeah, I don't think the American is the best group of 5 conference. I think they were when that conversation was when they had Houston and Cincinnati and UCF. They were. But you lose SMU, Cincinnati, Houston, it's probably a lot more even now. It's probably going to be cyclical in nature that way. I think Sun Belt's probably better at the top. I still think I would take the bottom of the American.
What do you think Texas State does this week against Arizona State?
I think it's one of the more fascinating games of the week. The line started one way and it's kind of gone the other. So that tells me something. I do worry about the body types. Just like Arizona State's a Power 5, Power 4 football team that even if they're not very good, they've been recruiting as one of those for a while. Like it's just the offensive line, defensive line. I think that they have speed to match with Texas State. My worry for Texas State is just an emotional hangover letdown, right? That you win a game that you've been talking about for a long time, you kind of climb that mountain, and now 4 days later, you got to go play a really good football team on a national stage. How do they handle that? That's going to be kind of the next test for this team, because that's what you got to get to, right? Is like a week in, week out of this thing.
I think Sarkisian said something interesting talking about Trey Moore, about how, like, when you go from a group of 5 school to a power 4 school, it's like, okay, you're up for every power 4 game. But when you're at this school now, like a Texas, every single week is like your Super Bowl. Like every single week is like the biggest week. I don't know if GJ has built a culture that's going to be able to solve that. The only X factor that I think super matters, because I agree with the offensive and defensive line, the fact the game is in San Marcos, I think helps the Bobcats a lot, because you're not having to go on the road. You're not having to do anything. Like, that's the only reason that I think that the Bobcats probably, I don't want to say probably win, but I think this is the reason they could win.
Yeah, I think being at home helps. The fan base is energized right now. I mean, you're feeling good about yourself, and that's a big deal. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be fun. The eyes of the nation are going to be on Texas State, and so this is one of those like resume building opportunities that don't even require a win. If this is a 38-36 barn burner and it ends up Texas State's 10-2, 11-1, a conference champion, like that's going to be a feather in the cap thing alongside the UTSA win. So this is a big deal for the program, not only just to win, but to not get blown out, not get embarrassed, because in this new age, this is kind of the new swimsuit competition on the G5 level. Like, the P4 teams used to have to blow people out, right, to build the resume. They don't have to do that because you just win the conference nowadays. But I think at the G5, that's going to be important to like have style points, and playing a P4 team good to an even draw or to a win would be huge come December.
It's going to be so hard to schedule this stuff too now, because you schedule so far out. If Texas State decides to, okay, hey, we're going to be a team that's constantly, or even UTSA, constantly competing for a conference title, we need to have a premier Power 4 team coming in. And you might schedule that with GJ Kinne as the head coach, and you might schedule that with, Billy Napier as your head coach. You don't know.
Well, and these P4 teams have less reasons to do these games. Like, I'm shocked Arizona State's doing this game, right? Like when you see this on a schedule, you're like, what? Why did the athletic director do this? This is only a lose situation for them, right? Like, you can't gain anything by going to Texas State and playing this football game. You can gain something at home because ticket sales and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's going to be harder and harder for especially good schools like Texas State to get these games on the schedule, because why would you do that? Like, it's just UTSA struggled with it a little bit, right? It's like, why, Boise State talked about it all the time forever. You don't, when you get to a certain level, losing to that team is the only thing that can hurt you. Winning doesn't benefit you that much. So take advantage of it while you can. Most of these games are going to be on the road.
Jordan McLeod, the best quarterback in the group of 5?
Seth Hennigan might be my pick there at Memphis. App State's quarterback is a really good football player. But yeah, Jordan McLeod's definitely up there, reigning Sun Belt Player of the Year, conference champion. Obviously in that conversation for sure.
Proved his mobility to Zimmel with two touchdowns on the ground. So I was happy.
Yeah, much more mobile quarterback than TJ Finley. Remember that conversation?
Yeah, TJ Finley, not that's like the white cornerback thing, right? There's probably something cooked in there that made people think that TJ Finley's a little bit more mobile than he is.
This is a narrative, I guess, that's going to take place throughout the Arizona State game. But there's 22 players on Arizona State's roster right now from Texas with Texas ties, or actually even more with Texas ties that just went to Texas schools that are not from the state. But Kenny Dillingham wore like a Texas shirt, like an outline of the state with Arizona on it, because that's like I guess that's what he's trying to do, is recruit the state, because he goes against 2-3 other teams in the Big 12 from Texas.
And he had some staffers in it, like Brian Carrington, who used to be at Texas, is an assistant coach there. I think, Samples, Rashad Samples was there before he went to Oregon. So yeah, I think a lot of those schools see an opportunity in Texas and put at least 1 or 2 staffers on it just to make sure.
Yeah, if you were like a huge prospect though out of high school, you want to go to Arizona State? Are there other places you could go?
Fellas, Do
Yeah,
you
come
know
on, Jake, what type
Arizona
of
State?
question
You
was
see,
that?
okay, and that's what everybody tells me too. But I went to Texas
need
State.
to
I was
take you
spoiled.
to. I need to take you to Tempe, Arizona on a Friday or Saturday night. It is
That would be a great field
hard
trip.
hard to match. Hard to match.
Actually,
Scottsdale,
next
bro.
week, Texas State travels to Tempe to play this same game.
You should go.
Could be a weekend of travel, yeah, for your boy.
Yeah, take the mics. Just go have a good time. Walk around campus. You
Ooh, Zim.
enjoy yourself.
Stay single, Jakey. Stay single. Stay strong, because we can't go to Arizona booed up.
Yeah,
That's
we
a bad
can.
look.
Yeah.
No,
You can. You just don't tell anybody that when you're there.
There you go.
Yeah, you get on Kenny's radar as a quarterback. I mean, you're pretty good at football. I think that's one of the things that Kenny is really kind of impressed me by is like he didn't really have a lot of misses in the port. Like in this age,
I can think of one.
One
yeah, I mean,
big one, for sure.
there's going to be a few, right? I mean, like just you got them in recruiting as well, right? Straight out of high school, like, you're going to flame out on some guys. But you look around at the country, especially like on the offensive side of the ball, like building through the portal hasn't really hit all that much. And he's been able to find these guys, like finding Jordan McLeod late. TJ Finley, like we know the reputation before then, like what Lindsey Scott was before he got to Incarnate Word. Like he's been able to look at some of these quarterbacks that haven't made it work at a few stops and gone, oh, I can make you go. Yeah, and now he's got a quarterback. Now he's got a quarterback who is already proven and experienced. And like, I just don't see what the ceiling
I'm going to zag. Can I zag on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure.
All right, I'm gonna zag.
That's just what you do.
Because I think he shot.
I was about to say, do you need permission to be yourself?
I think he shotguns. I think Kenny shotguns more than any other offensive head coach in the country. When it's like, I'm gonna have 5 different dudes I'm talking to, and one of them is gonna work. So it's like, if it's like, it's
I just think I think you're just close to Texas State in a way that you're aware of that like that goes on. Like this is how this goes. Like it's shotgun recruiting these days. Like to put all of your eggs in one basket, especially in a basket that isn't NIL deep, would be crazy. Like if you're Texas or something and you can like guarantee you're going to get this guy because you can offer him more than anybody else, sure. But like I remember when like Jordan McLeod was like coming to Texas State and like, we kind of knew about it the night before. I remember Kenny being like, well, look, I need to see him in San Marcos for, like you can get an offer on the plane, right? Like somebody could call, like, look at Auburn's quarterback situation, right? Hugh Freeze was like, you know what? Peyton Thorne does suck. Everybody's right. I'm going to find a quarterback. And he just like dials up Jordan McLeod and is like, I'll give you $2 million to come be the quarterback. You know what I mean? The plane would have just been misdirected. So I just think you have to, in today's world, like, it's just like coaching behind the scenes. Like if you have a running back, like the defensive coordinator spot opens up, you're not just talking to one guy. Like you're talking to 4 or 5 guys. Like it's like going to a club on a Friday night, right? Like I'm just going to give you all some dating advice here. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like spread it around, see what's out there. And I think that's true for recruit. I think it's even more true now than it's ever been before.
I always learn something talking to Craven.
I'm learning more about dating by watching college football coaches recruit players.
Yeah, the transfer portal. The transfer portal is where it's at. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Somebody else's waste is going to be your goal.
Could you imagine Craven teaching one of those pickup classes at like a community center and call it the transfer portal? How to pick up chicks in 2024
by Mike Craven. That's the next book, Craven.
That's the next book.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, guys, I don't make a ton of money. I don't look great. Y'all have seen me, but I've done pretty well my whole life. Continue to do well right now. So I think I would. God,
I love this guy.
I think I could pull that off.
You're my freaking hero, Craven.
Yeah, I've outkicked my coverage for sure. There's no doubt.
He's
about
like
that.
the Moses lag. He's teaching him how to break dance in the classroom.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's all about confidence, right? If you make them laugh, you make them do a lot of things.
People ask me why I like you so much, Craven. It's moments like this.
Malik Hornsby was a miss.
What? Was it?
Jaden DeLora was a miss. I'm just saying.
I don't know if that counts.
Not even though, because we got Jaden DeLora and we got.
That's what I'm saying.
How are those misses if they're on the team?
But they weren't good. Like Jaden DeLora didn't take a snap. Malik Hornsby was like an average quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they fixed that. They fixed it, right? Like they get Malik Hornsby, they see Malik Hornsby in spring, they go, this isn't good enough. They go get TJ Finley, right? Like
that's fair.
that is how modern coach, because a lot of these coaches, I think maybe you could point down to San Antonio of like one of the issues now is like loyalty can be a bad thing, right?
Ooh,
like
another
being
dating tip.
you're not going to get me on record saying that. Being looking at your roster and going, well, these are the guys I got. This is who I've recruited. This is who I'm playing with. Maybe that's a disservice nowadays. Maybe it is good to be more cutthroat NFL-y, which I think GJ, has had experience with, right? To where it's like, this is a business. We're paying you guys now, and the large part, this is what it's about. And if we're not good enough at a position after spring practice, I'm going to go find somebody who is. And I think that, not that he's been perfect, and the Jaden DeLora conversation is probably a bigger one than we want to have on this podcast. But I think seeing some errors and going like, hey, I'm going to go fix this, and not having your pride take you down that route is another reason that I think he's super equipped to be successful in this landscape of college football.
It's the experience of getting cut from 6 NFL teams too. Like he's like, okay, well, the buck.
It's not personal
somewhere. Yeah,
it's not personal. And that's easier to do in this, in the NIL, you can use it against the player, right? Like, hey, you're shopping around, right? Why wouldn't I? I think it's fair now to have those conversations. We can all be adults in the room and just be like, hey, man, you're looking. If somebody comes around and is like, here's a bag to come be the running back, wide receiver, defensive tackle, so like, you're going to think about that. Why wouldn't I too? We can be above board of that now. And I think guys like GJ Kinne are embracing it and doing it in a way that's not as much like Dion, you know what I mean? Like there's a way to do it. And I think he's kind of threading that needle as well as you can right now.
You mentioned you were talking about the transfer portal, Craven, about like how Texas State's essentially built through the portal. What are the other schools that are like that? Because Colorado's the famous like flame right now, or like the dumpster fire.
At least.
Yeah. Well, I would say SMU. Yeah. SMU is the one I'm most familiar with just from being in the state. Ole Miss, in a lot of ways, is that way. I think Kinne, maybe if he's going to be at a spot for 10 years, maybe that's not how you want to do it long term. But in today's world, you got to win. You got to win fast, and you have this like vehicle to flip your roster completely around and to improve your talent level. And he's done that masterfully. And I think you should get credit for that.
There's been some people though that like because of the NIL world, they like say, "Oh well, Texas State is obviously just paying people." That is not the case. You talk to some of these players, they're like, "Yeah." I mean, Lincoln Perry actually said in a press conference, I think, that Jordan McLeod just stayed on his couch for like the first like couple of weeks while they're trying to get Jordan McLeod's situation figured out. So it's not money that's going on over here. It's like you're saying, just wins, opportunities, and then to get on like a bigger, or broader, I guess, microscope on the college football scale.
Yeah, for sure. You got to sell what you have. And I think Kinne had, it's not going to be life-changing money like it would be at like A&M or something. But I do think with the president, the athletic director, the head coach kind of being on board with how this is, like they've gone into the community and got people to donate, like they've gotten companies to sign on. Like they've done a proactive job of getting their kids opportunities. And sure, it's not $100,000 or something. But I was a college student. Y'all were college students. Like, give me $100, and that's a pretty big thing, right? And so I think with NIL, we talk way too much about the top 1%, and the rest of the 99% of college students are pretty much the same as we were at college students. They just want a couple $100 so they can like take the girl to dinner or go buy a keg or whatever it is that you're doing.
The top 1% of the 1% of NIL.
Wow. Two of the biggest boosters on campus too were in GJ Kinne's press conference. So there's some moves happening as we speak. The namesakes of the South End Zone complex, Johnny and Nathalie Wiseman.
Yeah, I mean when I talk to head coaches nowadays, like their gripe isn't that NIL exists. Like I think they all agree that players should get paid. People are, they're making millions of dollars. The schools are making millions of dollars. They just have to do a lot more fundraising than they ever signed up to do. Like to be a head coach now is a lot less X's and O's than it used to be, and a lot more money whipping than it used to be. And that to them, they just want to coach ball. I mean, they know it's the job and they're going to do it because they're getting paid $1 million. But like, I do think that's part of the equation now too. And that's another thing that Kinne has really embraced that I think some of the old school coaches maybe haven't, and he's going to lap them because of it.
Well, what's funny is that we talked to Kinne about, like I said, hey, do you want a GM who's just in charge of like NIL and divvying out money. He's like, no, I want to do it all. So
yeah, I think
shout
that's his
out.
favorite part. Like, I really think, like I talked to some like coaches' kids who are like, yeah, I was drawing up plays like on the chalkboard when I was like 4 or 5 years old. It sounds like Kinne liked to play like the video game and like do redrafts and stuff like that. Like he likes the roster building part of it. And college football allows you nowadays to kind of like play this fun. You're not going to get that opportunity in the NFL, right? Like Bill O'Brien ruined that for everybody. Like you're not going to be the GM and the head coach. And at college, especially a place like Texas State at a G5 program, he can kind of be both. He can be the head coach and do the schematic stuff. He can also be the GM, and he gets to like kind of have his own like team, and that's got to be a cool thing for a guy who, grew up wanting to do that.
Not gonna push back on that one.
No, I agree with that. I want to know
every once in a blue moon you won't do something.
I want to know when Billy Napier comes back to the Sun Belt, because Butch Jones has done, I don't know, an okay job at Arkansas State. Billy Napier's going to get fired at Florida. And I'm wondering, like, if GJ leaves or if Traylor leaves.
At Arkansas State, they scored 70 points on us last year.
Okay, beating Texas State is not indicative of building a good program.
It is.
I think the Craven can agree to that.
5 in the country, maybe.
I think that's starting to change. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I do think what would be interesting at like UTSA is, they've hired from within so much, and Jeff Traylor is such a big figure at that program that if he left, especially on good terms, which I'd imagine it would be, how much say he has or how much influence he has and who that next coach would be. And if Billy Napier is somebody they'd go from outside that, or is it a Will Stein or somebody that is like a Traylor guy to kind of continue it on? I guess that depends on how the next year or two goes or what happens moving forward.
I was going to say, as a journalist versus an alum, how do you feel about that? Because I would feel a certain way if a coach left and then named his successor. And I understand UTSA has had success, and I understand Texas State has had like a little bit of success. But if GJ left and was like, Mac Leftwich is the guy, I don't necessarily love that GJ is calling that shot. I would love it because I like Leftwich, but I wouldn't love that he's calling the shot on the way out the door.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't bother me as either, just because like I remember what UTSA was before Jeff Traylor got there, and if the brass behind the scenes is like, hey, it's not broke, why would we try to fix this thing? And there's somebody that's qualified, right? I'm not saying like take his best friend and just like, Kurt Traylor's not going to get the job, for example, right? Like, I mean, I understand that it has to be somebody who would be in line for the head coaching job anyway. But if you can get a vouch from somebody who has laid the foundation for you to be a program that people care about and talk about now, to where folks, they didn't before, I think it'd be silly not to listen to the smartest guy in the room. And when you have a university president and athletic director and a successful head coach in a room, the head coach knows more than the other two. You should listen to him. Maybe you shouldn't take it as gospel, but you should absolutely take it under consideration.
I've wondered about guys who got dragged through the mud this week. Kurt Traylor, god damn, I saw his name a lot on Twitter this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an easy punching bag, right? To kind of look at it and be like, oh, he's got the same last name, he must have that job or whatever. I mean, Kurt was a successful head coach in his own right. UTSA just got beat by a better team. Like, I don't think we have to like go in depth on this one and try to figure out where the cracks in the wall at UTSA are or how they fell off or whatever. Like, they lost generational players and Texas State returned them, and the team that returned them beat the team that lost them. Like, that's called football on a week in, week out basis.
Yeah. And then I guess, Craven, maybe you could shed some light on this for me, but it's good to have like Batman and the Joker, like that's always what UTSA and Texas State will be, at least for this foreseeable, like, what, 10 years
Who's the Joker?
Contract is on. I feel like we're the bad guy in this.
Yeah, 100%.
Texas State is the bad guy.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it's just different. But anyway, like, what is the deal with NIL? How come you guys can't get good players at UTSA?
Why no money?
Yeah, why no money? Because we're
Yeah.
talking about one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the state. Like,
But they
what's
don't
the
have
deal?
UTSA fans. Like,
Yeah,
what are we
I mean,
talking
I
about
think
here?
it's important to remember. I don't think UTSA is. I mean, I think it's relative, right? Like, they don't have Memphis money, but I mean, I'd imagine the payroll's not too dissimilar than Texas State's. I'd imagine it's more than Texas State's, right, on a yearly basis.
I should get that information. Actually,
Yeah,
Almost
I mean,
broke.
I
like
should do that word.
Craven's like, how you call us broke when you're broke?
Yeah, I just like, I don't want to spill any beans or whatever, but I'm pretty confident that that's true, right? I mean, that's not me reporting something, but I y'all could probably connect the dots there. I think it's just where they are in the development tree. Like UTSA had been the experienced older team, and they had beaten UTSA or Texas State because of it. Texas State's the older, more experienced team, and they beat UTSA because of it. Like that's how the natural ebbs
See,
and flows of this thing is supposed to go. Like UTSA is not Texas versus Texas State or something like that. They're peers. They're equal institutions with about the same resources and money and all that kind of stuff. Like I just don't. I just
that's
feel
the
like we're
most
making
frustrating part of this rivalry to me because they're like 5-0 or it's 5-0, but like 3 of those games came down to like 2 plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just drives me crazy because it's like, oh yeah, no, the more experienced team won those games. It was a field goal. Like, what are you talking about?
That's what experience does, right? Like
a field goal? Come on.
experience helps you win close games, right? Continuity helps you win close games. Good coaching helps you win close games, and UTSA has had more of that than the team that you're talking about. I mean, that's
a college
that's how it
kicker
goes.
won a game. Like that's shocking.
Well, I mean, the team puts you in a position to be in a position to where the field goal kicker kicks a game, right? I mean, are you suggesting
what do
that
you
experience doesn't matter in college
No, I'm
football
just
with
saying,
teenagers and 20-year-olds?
I'm just saying that it feels like that's, oh yeah, no, they were the big bad guy. It's like, no, it's been close for a long time.
But do you think that if you play that out 10 times, every single score becomes the same? Like you're acting as if these things are like
happenstance.
Like if Texas State and UTSA play tomorrow, that it's going to be 49-10 and unroll in the exact same way that the game on Saturday did. That's not how this works, right? Like it's just a bunch of random occurrences going up against each other. And if you can get into the percentages of this thing where you have a 6% better chance of winning because your quarterback's 23 years old and the other one's in his 6th start, that's the difference in a football game if it comes down to a drive or two. And UTSA's had that quarterback and had that consistency and had that culture behind it, and Texas State hasn't. Texas State has that now with a consistent culture and a coach and an offensive system and a quarterback who's 23, 24 years old, who's won big games before. And they showed up and they played well on Saturday. Like that's, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it has to be deeper than that. That's just football.
I just still remember
why Texas and Michigan. Why did Texas beat the shit out of Michigan after Michigan just won a national championship? Well, one's got a quarterback that's back and is really good, and the other one has a new quarterback, right? Not as good of stars around him. I just, I don't know. I just think we try to make this into something it's not sometimes.
It's 5-1. It could be like 3-3.
I was just extremely grateful, Craven, because the amount of mental baggage that I was able to clear was insane. Like I had no idea it meant that much to me until it ended. And I was like, wow, I finally have peace at night right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've always kind of joked that it's not a rivalry until both teams win, in the same way that like an NBA series doesn't start until the home team loses or something like that. But college football is built on rivalries. It's built on trash talk. It's built on your neighbor and you liking different teams, or your brother and you liking on different teams. Like I went to UTSA. I don't know many Memphis grads, right? Or many Army grads or East Carolina grads or whatever. I know a crap ton of Texas State grads, right? And like having a rivalry of two fan bases that bump into each other, that live in the same places, that are in the same families, and have it be even and one team win one year and the other, like that's good. Like that's a good college football rivalry. I think sometimes we forget that this is like why we love this sport. And it shouldn't upset you, right? It should be like, it should just be fun. Like, I don't know. I know that like a lot of people get really mad at these things, really excited about these things. Maybe it's just me being a reporter and being around it, and I've kind of lost some of that. But like, I don't know. I just thought it was one side. One team is really good. One team's pretty average, and the team that's really good beat the team that was average.
What's wrong, Zoom? What's on your mind?
I'm listening to Craven. I'm listening. I'm learning, taking it all in.
He wants me to ride the roller coaster that he's on, and I just, I don't ride it in the same way. I also went to UTSA before football, and so I do think some of that plays a part in kind of and I cover all these teams, right? Like I like GJ Kinne, like I like Leftwich, McCoy,
yeah.
I think it's great that Texas State's another G5 program to compete. I hope they make the college football playoff. Like that's just not me saying it. Like that, I know on Twitter, North Texas fans and Texas State fans like to act like I'm a homer or something, but my ideal 12-team playoff is just like 12 of the 13 teams in the state of Texas. Like I'm in it for business. Saturday when UTSA lost, that was not the biggest disappointment of my day. It was probably something about an article I wrote or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, right now it's projected Texas State at UT, which would be perfect for you.
Oh man,
That would be the best situation for Craven.
How do you think that would go?
How do I think it would go?
Yeah.
50-point loss.
So here's my question to you then. Would that be fun?
Yes.
Like, would that
100%.
would that be more enjoyable than winning a G5 playoff against like a bunch of G5 other teams instead of like
Yes.
winning a championship with the trophy and the parade and all that stuff?
Yeah. Because, and let me explain why. Because if Texas State makes the playoffs in the first year of the 12 team, that means we won the Sun Belt. That means we probably went undefeated in the conference. So those are two of the big things that I care the most about. Beating my conference opponents, beat UTSA, won the Sun Belt. And then to be the first person, because that 12-team playoff spot will be the de facto like group of 5 champion. Like we will call that the group of 5 champion. To win the first group of 5 championship, whether it be like the BCS where it was like just a computer system called it, or the AP poll where it was just the writers that called it, I'm cool with that. And that's going to be something that gets put up on the wall. Like it's going to be 81 national championship, 82 national championship, college football playoff berth. Yeah. And I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that.
What about in 5 years?
Does if we win 5 of them?
No. I'm saying like, say Memphis goes this year and in 2029, Texas State is the G5 champion. Like, do you still feel the same way about it? Or if hold on. If for the next 4 years, teams get beat 30 to 50 point spread, and then it's Texas State's turn, like, does it lose some of the luster eventually?
I think if you're in a situation where you're doing it every year, like if it's Boise State, or let's say since Cincinnati, like Cincinnati that year that they went to the college football playoffs and lost to Alabama, right? If Cincinnati doesn't go to the Big 12 and they just are constantly that 4th team that's getting their ass kicked, yeah, that gets old. That's the point where we have change. But if it's a different team every year in that 12 spot, I don't have a problem with it. And if it's, and because again, I look at it as my school has been Dookie for a decade. This is a real like point to like, oh, wow, we're getting good. And if we're continuing to lose by 30 in that game, at some point, something changes. Either you put more NIL money in, or you jump conferences, or like, I'm fine with that. Now, I understand what your point is probably going to be is like, hey, split it in half. We've done this talk before. I get that, but I'm okay with it, especially for the first 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I don't have a solidified opinion on this one. I don't hate the G5 playoff idea as much as it seems like a lot of G5 fans do. I think some of my opinion on that is just talking to Sam Houston fans. They definitely enjoyed winning national championships more than trying to like win Conference USA maybe and get to like a bowl game or something. And maybe being a participant in the college football playoff changes that equation a little bit. And in Conference USA, unless you're Liberty, that's probably not going to be your fate, even if you win that conference. But I do think there's something to last game of the year, winning it, raising a trophy, going into the offseason. Like there's something about that other than like, oh no, we just got the shit kicked out of us by Georgia.
But it's also sports and shit happens all the time.
Sure, 100%. Like, TCU got the shit kicked out of them by Georgia.
Yeah. And I'll tell you.
And a lot of those fans did not really care about that football season in the way that they probably should have, because it put a sour taste in their mouth, right? And like that would be my worry. Like as a UTSA fan, right? They have that year in 2021 or whatever. 2021, right? Where they start 11-0, they lose North Texas, then they win the conference. Like if that next game, like I didn't need validation, right? Like it didn't need to get like beat by 30 by Georgia to be like, oh, that was a great year or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like we've nationalized the sport in a way that like we're ruining it. And this is like the pursuit of this playoff is the thing.
Well, so here's the other part, right? Like the person who goes every single week, like the Texas fan has to be miserable because you don't get to celebrate a win against Mississippi State or a win against Florida because you're looking for a national championship. So the whole regular season doesn't really matter. The SEC championship is the thing that matters. For UTSA and for Texas State, every game matters because we care about our team. So in that regard, I'm okay with getting the shit kicked out of me by Texas. I would rather lose by 50 to Texas than play in a corporate bowl with FIU,
Yeah, totally. I don't know. I just think an 8-team playoff with like the best 8 or a 4-team playoff with the best 4 G5 teams would be would be a lot of fun. But we'll see what we feel like in 5 or 6. I worry that this choice will be taken away from us, and like in 6 years, it's just going to be what it is. And because if the G5 champion gets the shit kicked out of them every single year in a way that ratings drop for that game in 2031, when they scrap this thing and go to a new format, like they're just going to fix the glitch themselves.
So App State, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, all those teams that were perennial FCS champions, that's the group that I would talk to, because they left the FCS because they wanted a chance to compete at this level. And if you say, all right, we're splitting in half again, group of 5 and power 4, they're going to be like, well, what the hell did we jump out from the FCS for?
To not be Division III. Like, that's why Sam Houston did it. Yeah. Like, Sam Houston thought that thinks that there will be a split, that there will be a P4 and a G5 split. And they didn't want to be in tier 3. They wanted to remain in tier 2, right? SMU thinks the split is going to happen. And so they were willing to forego $100 million of television rights to get on the right side of that split. And so I think that's why Kennesaw State's jumping and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're just trying to get into the waters they want to swim in when this thing recalibrates in what I would imagine would be 2031, when the March Madness contract's up and this current playoff thing is up.
This is like when the tectonic plate shifted the first time, And now
it's like Land Before Time, right? You're like trying to get on the right side of the split, and it's just jockeying for position before it happens.
This is classic Zimmel Craven talk too. The last time I saw you both in person in San Marcos was at Herbert's, and you guys were trying to fix the Big 12. Well, I don't know if Craven was really trying to fix the Big 12 as much as Zimmel wanted to stymie conversation or argument.
Yeah.
But
he's good at it.
I thought it was a good talk. I thought we had a good time.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable time. Y'all have each said San Marcos differently. San Marcos and San Marcos. I listen to national podcasts just to try to keep up with the storylines. And a lot of them have been talking about this game, and they all say San Marcos. And it annoys me. It makes me feel like maybe they don't know the area. But is that just like me being white and not saying the town correctly? Because I've just always said San Marcos.
You're supposed to say it that way when you go to school at Texas State. That's how they tell you to say it on the radio.
Okay, good.
But I say it the real way.
Yeah. I was like, because I'm from Austin, right? And we like say Manchac when it's like Manchaca, and we say Burnett instead of like Burnett when like the family's name was like Burnett, and we say Burnett. So I just didn't know if maybe this was also just kind of my redneck showing out, and like maybe I was saying it wrong my whole life.
So weird. I said it right, Jacob. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. San Antonio is well, you don't know what? What?
I said it correctly.
What did you say?
I said it correctly.
Oh, how'd you say it?
San Marcos.
No, I think you said U.S. still, right? I can hear it.
It's is, not us.
Us?
You say os.
Os? Yeah, I do say os. Is, not us. Yeah, you do say is. And that pisses me off. No, I'm just kidding. I don't care, I guess. I think it's weird,
Texas,
like, what this
Jacob
region,
Rodriguez.
Central Texas, like anglicizes different words extremely weird. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Like,
that's why I always ask for clarification.
What the hell is that?
I never know if that's just my ancestors messing with words or if I'm saying it correctly.
Guadalupe is crazy.
Yeah.
Craven, I'll let you in on a secret. You're always saying it correctly, buddy.
Thank you.
We got it right.
On the white side of history.
Yeah.
On the white side of history.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where all the books are.
Always a blast checking in with you. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely. See y'all Thursday.
We're on a short week, so we've adjusted everything this week, including having a guest on before Wednesday of all days. That's crazy.
It was a good week. It was a short week. Texas State plays Arizona. Hey, you can't get high on your own supply. I have taken the advice of the head coach. I am a shill. He said we go 1-0 every week. That's what we're doing. We're 1-0 every week. Last week is last week. This week is this week. I'm over UTSA. Is it a big deal if the rivalry's dead? That like the one game that mattered in this rivalry, we won? I don't even think it's a rivalry anymore, honestly.
I'm just glad it's in the back of this year so I could stop thinking about it. I went on a date Friday night. Couldn't think about anything except
NBD.
This game. I was going.
What a flex.
For 2 weeks, I've only been thinking about this game. When we played Lamar and they were playing Kennesaw State, just thinking about them.
Pretty backed up then,
need to get the hell out of my own mind.
Couldn't think of anything but UTSA.
Literally, yeah.
Pretty backed up. But it's like something about Mary.
Something about Mary. No, I was texting when you and Craven were trying to fix the G5 playoff system. I was texting this girl. So I think we're okay.
What a flex.
Yeah.
The married
Big
man
dog
and the
status.
perpetually single guy fixed the G5 while Jacob tries to get Punani. Insane.
Anyway.
Mama Rodriguez, I hope you heard that. I hope you heard that. I hope you heard that.
I'm looking for a woman after God's heart, Mom. Anyway. I am. Praise be upon her.
Hashtag clean pod. Hashtag clean pod.
Clean pod, yeah. This
Clean
guy
pod.
is a potty mouth over here. Everybody, we ran into a lot of the Cuatro Corners cartel members. So shout out our boy from North Carolina who made the trip out to sunny San Marcos. And I'm so sorry that we big timed you and we didn't get your barbacoa tacos. We were on our way to pick up our drunk friends from another tailgate. So we were going to do that, and then we're going to come back, and then we went to
I'll be honest. Jacob told me before we went, I was like, we should go get those tacos. He said, you didn't get on Ozempic, fat boy. And that's why we didn't get them.
But Andrew did eat my snacks in the press box this week. That's a real story. This is not a bit. I was pissed. I walked up at the half. I come up, see what's in my card, talk to Carter, talk to Zimmel, get a Coke, chug it, get out of there. I wanted to eat my snackies this time, and Zimmel ate them. Okay? I'm pissed.
Hate to see it. Don't leave the picnic basket around the bear, baby.
Yeah,
don't leave the picnic basket around the bear.
Got my picnic basket. And I should have told you something, but I was like, I don't have time for this right now.
In the press box? You were going to say some in the press box?
I did say some I did say something in the press box. That's one tick back for Jacob.
Owen McCown is the Lane Hatcher of UTSA. Really? That's my take. I think that he's super overrated, and he looked awful. It doesn't look like UTSA has a quarterback.
Much a better team that we're going to face in week 3, Arizona State, 2-0. Andrew, it's my favorite sportsism ever. Somebody's O has got to go.
That's your favorite ism, your sportsism? Yeah. Somebody's O has got to go.
Somebody's O has got to go, yeah.
That sounds like a bad honeymoon. Somebody's O has got to go. It's like...
I like how we're a clean podcast, but you have been making a lot of euphemisms. Have you noticed that?
No.
You have. Maybe that's just always been your MO, and it's been disguised in all the swear words.
Yeah, now the swear words are gone.
Now I'm like, wow, look at this guy. He's addicted to pornography.
What the? There's a lot of accusations being thrown around. Fat, virgin, addicted to pornography. I don't like any of them. What's going on here? I am doing my job. I'm an entertainer first and foremost. And I'm doing a clean set, so I don't know what's your problem.
If you're keeping track of the swear jar at home, I have I have $4 in the jar now. 2 from this podcast, 2 from last week. Andrew has 2 from last week, and then Craven.
When was this? I had 1.
The S word at one time in the interview. Bad, Craven. Bad.
Yeah, I thought I had 1 from last week.
No, you said something while we were recording. Something for Twitter. And then you were like, number 1 Texas State clean podcast. And I was like, yeah, so much for that. So
you can cut it.
You're advanced. I didn't. No. Sorry. You owe $2 in the swear jar.
Bad producer Jake.
In the square jar.
Yeah.
No, it was cut in the thing. I censored it. But you still said it. So this is the honesty system, Zoom.
The honor system, yeah.
Yeah, the honor system, which I guess you're really just trusting me at the end of the day to not cut it out sheepishly. Yeah. But I have been a good boy, and I've been marking my own. So I trust that you mark your own.
I get texts sometimes, and they're like, did Jacob mean to leave this in? It makes you look really dumb. And I'm like, no.
Makes you look really dumb?
It looks me look really bad. I don't know. I always watch the pod, and I think this is another great episode.
You don't watch any podcasts, Doug.
I watch them all. What are you talking about?
A word, bro. You do not.
I watch all of them. I'm locked in, bro.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not at first, for sure.
No. Well, let me tell you, the first one I watched was the one where I was eating a Big Mac, and I didn't know it was a video pod. See, you know what happened to me? The first podcast that we did, Jacob didn't tell me it was a video podcast, so I was eating a Big Mac,
and it made me look awful. So, yeah, it was a tough look.
Your image just instantly dropped right then, huh?
Is Jacob conspiring against me? It seems like it.
You decided to start at the beginning of One Piece or what? You going all the way back
No,
in
I'm
time?
saying when we started the podcast, I was watching and I was like, this is awful.
Well, any version of the podcast that you do is going to be bad at first, right? Like people need to get that out of the way.
No, here's the thing. The content that I put out was good.
Content was good. Yeah.
You made me look bad.
Oh, I made you look bad by you filming a mukbang. I invite you to a Zoom. What do you think's going to happen? You're going to get recorded. It's true.
So advanced scouting.
Advanced scouting. Have you been watching Arizona State? I saw their supercut of the Mississippi State highlights.
Mississippi State might not be any good, which is
that's what I'm saying. Mississippi State's garbage. Like, I get that they're in the SEC. I get that they have a bunch of big people and they're paying a lot of people a lot of money to go over there. That doesn't mean they're good at football.
The line moving from 1.5 Texas State to 3.5 Arizona State very quickly, which ironically enough, it's funny that I put those tweets out. There is a timeline. There is a timestamp. And yet I still was getting messages being like, hey, buddy, I think you got this one wrong. It's like, no, I got it right. At that time, it was 1.5. Now, Texas State going into this Thursday night game is a 3.5-point dog at home. Home usually gets 3 points. So you're looking at Vegas thinking we're essentially a touchdown dog at home against Arizona State. All of that being said, last year, Texas State gets Baylor in the first game of the season in a bad Baylor year, in a good to great Texas State year, but you had the element of surprise. This year, not only are you coming off a bowl win, not only are you coming off a win against Rice and Baylor, a team in the Big 12, but you're coming off a win against your rival. Arizona State's not coming in here surprised. They know exactly what they're going to get from Texas State. Now, I look at it in the two biggest factors. Factor number one, it's a home game for Texas State. They don't have to get on a bus. They don't have to get on a plane. All of the stuff that they did this week, all the install was in their home, right? And they get to wake up in their own bed on Saturday morning and they get to go to the stadium, and it's going to be the exact same way that it was the week prior. That is a big X factor. The other X factor in this one, I don't think Texas State has even opened up the playbook completely. Watching the game against UTSA, they had a bunch of the first 25 scripted looked very similar to the first 25 scripted against Lamar. A lot of underneath routes make life very easy for McLeod. But in the second half, it was essentially counter run left, right. There wasn't a lot of Texas State trying to reinvent the wheel. So they're going to come in with a playbook that might have like one or two more wrinkles. Maybe. The defense played really well on Saturday. I do not anticipate them playing that well again against Arizona State. So take that as you will.
I've been hopping on these Sunbelt calls where we get to talk to the coaches on Monday. They do their real availability on Tuesday, but I can never make those in person. So I jump on the Sunbelt call. And he was on the field coaching still. And this was like
Kinne.
11. Yeah, GJ Kinne. No, Kenny Dillingham. Come on. Yeah, it's a Sunbelt call, bro. So, yeah.
I don't know. You're saying it could be Leftwich. It could be, Barrick Neely.
Okay. What team do we cover, Andrew? Just wondering.
We cover Texas State, but you say it could be a bunch of the coaches. We have a bunch of male coaches.
All right. GJ Kinne. Are you okay? Are you with me? Are you following?
I'm just saying. I'm going to make sure that people at home aren't confused.
I'm going to leave that in. Home. And if somebody calls you dumb, that's not my fault.
Guy driving his kid to school, kids pounding on the back seat. Where's my juice box? He doesn't hear who he is. He's confused. You say GJ Kinne, now he knows. It's GJ Kinne you're listening to. It takes 2 seconds.
Okay, yeah, but I'm going to play the thing with GJ Kinne talking is the thing.
Well, I didn't know that. How was I supposed to know that? One question
talking to GJ Kinne about the balancing act that he's had to do. In weeks 1 through 3, he's had 3 very different opponents. One an FCS opponent, Lamar, right? Pretty solid team. You and I both agree that they're better than Kennesaw probably as a week 1 tester before we play our biggest rival, UTSA, right? UTSA comes in, they're 5-0. Someone's always got to go. You know the whole deal. So that's a very different game too to prepare for. Coming ahead into Arizona State week, also another big test. They've been very dominant. Their first game against Wyoming, second game against Mississippi State.
Oh,
one game's incredible. Yeah, I'm talking about this year. No, I'm talking about 1997. Where are you today?
I'm just saying, you're saying dominant. I'm thinking Arizona State hasn't really been that good recently, but okay.
Recently,
talking about
the first 2 games of the season.
you're talking about the first 2 games of the season. Got it.
What? Where the hell are you right now?
I'm just
You're throwing my momentum off.
my bad. I'm sorry. Cook. I'm sorry.
I am a big cookie, and you
Clean pod.
Is this what you're doing now? Is this how you aggravate me? By asking questions that everybody else would understand?
Clean pod.
Anyway, three
okay,
very
buddy?
different games that Texas State has had to prepare for.
Hey, Coach, good to see you again. Congrats on the win. To your point, just about scheduling, wanted to know, just could you shed some light on kind of the juggling aspect of it? 3 very different opponents in weeks 1 through 3. Kind of like, what do you choose to put on tape versus what do you don't and win, you know?
Yeah, I think at this point, we're a game plan team. We're going to do what we do, but at the same time, you always got to have wrinkles. You always got to put lipstick on the pig and get things ready to go. So, most of the time, it's really about how you execute more than your plays and your scheme.
The way that you can get under my skin is incredible. Yes, Arizona State in their first 2 games of the year, this year, in the year of our Lord, 2024. So Andrew Zimmel can pay attention to this stupid conversation because I already know he's formulating a take in his own mind and is not listening to what I'm saying because he's thinking about the brownies that ate in the press box this past weekend.
They weren't even that good. You didn't miss much.
Wyoming and SEC play. Mississippi State, yes, we're dominant. Had a dominant running back showing, especially. Their quarterback, also pretty good, too. I've yet to really been impressed by much of their receivers. They don't have like a Joey Hobart standout guy. I mentioned, actually, in College Football 25, I went to Arizona State as a 5-star recruit, and they couldn't get me the ball in open space. So maybe that's just not accurate gameplay from me. I don't know.
Yep. We loved the analysis from the College Football 25 gameplay. It's been invaluable to the pod.
Turns out that game is super inaccurate to the way
Who could have guessed?
Life.
Who possibly could have guessed that?
Who would have thought? I thought the script was in. Thought Texas State was going to win everything.
So, okay. Where do you see Texas State winning this game?
I don't know. We gotta play within ourselves. As much coaching speak as I'm trying not to avoid in this podcast. I think truly DJ Kinne and co have to commit to like their best players on the field. They got to believe in Jordan McLeod, Joey Hobart, and Ishmael Mahdi. We're going to take them over the hump.
So do you think Lincoln Perry plays a bigger role in the next week or a similar role that he played at UTSA? Because a lot of people have been very high on him, but I wasn't that high because it felt like they kind of have been easing him in. So I'm excited that he's been able to play and he's looked good in the limited amount of snaps he's had, but it hasn't been something that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe how good he has looked. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like Mahdi, I expect to be good.
For as good as Link was too, like he probably doesn't have as good of a game with UTSA trailing as much as they did either. Like if the game is down to the wire, Ish is getting the touches every single time. Mm-hmm. The same way that their boy Scatabo is going to get all the ball. I mean, he had almost 400 yards of offense by himself against Mississippi State Bulldogs. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And everybody in their press conferences, because I've been just watching Arizona State stuff this whole week too, is like going like, oh my gosh, is Scatabo going to be okay to play on, Thursday? And they're like, yeah, he's a freak. So he's going to be ready to play.
You think the short week does anything?
I hope so. Genuinely, I hope so.
For them.
I hope that and travel does something for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Us, I mean, GJ talked about them getting in lifts and runs. And of course, they're adapting everything and watching film and stuff. I don't know if we ever really looked past UTSA, to be honest, in the same manner in which we did week 1 to look at UTSA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe, I don't know. I mean, Josh Eaton called them little fishes.
I feel like that was just somebody in the way. They little fishes. We wasn't really worried about them. We got something bigger coming up on Thursday. But it feels good to do this with this team and get this win. So, yes, I'm very grateful for that.
They're on something.
Yeah, that surprised me. I was kind of surprised by how disrespectful it was. I don't disagree. I love it.
He was the only one, too, in the press conference that said anything like that. Because, of course, GJ Kinne was very reverent to Jeff Traylor and their relationship. Jordan McLeod was like, yeah, good opponent, good win on next week.
Yeah.
And Josh Eaton came out with all the sound bites you could ever want for TV ever. So, no.
And you know what's funny? I didn't see a single one of them on Monday.
Me either. Yeah.
I think the media did a really good job of hiding that.
Burying it. Yeah.
My conspiracy theory.
Only there was a podcast. You should have cut that in real time and posted that.
Yeah, if only there was a reaction pod.
Only if there was a reaction. I think that's such cheap content. Like, who cares? You want me to break down everything? Like, this is all written. I wrote an article for DCTF. You want to go read it? Go read it. It's for free.
Clean pod.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at all these that I've dropped today. But I was thinking about the other day. I was like, when would I really feel bad about the amount of swear jars that I've dropped? Like after 20? That would I start to feel it then?
We're getting close. We're getting pretty dang close.
Yeah. That thing. Man, there was a lot of swears in this.
Let me just say, when we started this clean pod, you said to me, I don't have a problem. And clearly you do. Clearly you have a problem with swearing.
Last week was good. I was really focused last week. Potty mouth Jake. So sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Also, people out at the tailgate were like, hey, clean pod? What the heck? So it went both ways, actually. They were like, we only listened to you guys because you weren't clean. That was the best part.
Which is insane to me. Like that's the funniest part. But I'm glad. I think clean pod is a good thing. I think that's
clean pod is a good move. I'm sorry. I got to clean up my act. So I'm doing that. I'm avidly trying. Some weeks will be better than others. Like last week, really good. This week, not so much so far. What else do you want people to know, Zim?
Biggest game Texas State has played in San Marcos since UTSA. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be really exciting.
I have show in town on ESPN.
ESPN. I have Texas State winning this game by 4. I'm going to say it's 28-24 is the final.
28-24.
I think it's low scoring. I think it's going to be.
I think it's going to be within one for sure.
Come again?
I think it's going to be within one for sure. I was talking about earlier, but I've been watching a bunch of like Arizona State stuff. And like, besides having one of the best running backs in the country, I feel like they were talking about, well, if they don't let us run, we'll just throw. And if we don't throw, we'll just run. So they're not afraid of anything. And it's two of the youngest head coaches. There's a lot of narratives in this game. Last week, I talked about a lot of narratives headed into the UTSA week. A lot of narratives headed into this one too. How good is Texas State? Where is the ceiling really for this team? Because we beat Arizona State. I'll tell you what. It's going to be looking mighty sunny in San Marcos.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a whole different ballgame if we beat Arizona State. This is my favorite. It's the party ball. This is the best.
Did you have this as a loss or as a win when we were going?
I did. Originally, I had it as a loss.
And now?
I think we win 20-24.
Because I have us 4-0 into conference play.
No, I
think
have this
it
as a
can
loss.
still happen. I'm betting on the Bobcats.
I'm picking them this week, but originally I had it at 10-2. So
if this was a pick 'em, I would probably pick Arizona State if I was completely removed from Texas State. Yeah, just seeing how dominant that is. It's nuts.
This is if Arizona State doesn't come with their A game, they're going to lose this game.
100%. Well, you could say that with any team, though, no? Yeah, no, but like I think this is a very Georgia, maybe.
I think it's very specific. I think this is like specific. Like this could be a trap game for them.
This is a trap game for them. A lot of people thought it was a trap game for us. A lot of people just thought we were going to outright lose it. You mentioned before we were kind of we're growing in dog size as the days go into this game. I'm sure the lines will be crazy come Thursday.
I bet it's 7. I bet it's 7 points by Thursday. So. Thanks for squaring, everyone.
We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
Better not come any closer.
Thanks for listening. New episodes out every Thursday. Follow the boys on Twitter. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up.